Hugh and Sandy are from Huntington Beach, California. Sandy is with him tonight. Sandy, raise your hand. Hugh, by profession, is an accountant, and they have 2 children. And they both of them love the outdoors. They met in Idaho on a rafting trip. So they've come a long way from California to come to Kentucky to speak with us. And I do know Hugh tells me all the time, I live in California, but my heart and my soul is in Kentucky. So I think all of us as Kentuckians feel that same way. We're glad to have someone like you come back. He wanted me to mention a few of his ancestors. Hugh is a direct descendant of Green Clay, General Green Clay. And through General Green Clay and his daughter married William Rhodes. And through that marriage, Green Clay had the house Woodlawn, which Hugh is going to speak tonight on. He had that house built for his daughter and his son-in-law. Hugh is also a direct descendant of Levi Todd, who founded Lexington. And through his daughter, Jane Briggs Todd, is that correct? He married, you help me a little bit, Brett. Married Daniel Brett.
She married Daniel.
Daniel Brett. And Daniel, they had a child named Levi Brett. And Levi Brett married the child of Pauline Clay and William Rhodes. So those families really tied together. And the Rhodes family, John Rhodes, Robert Rhodes came to Kentucky first. He's a Revolutionary War veteran, and his son is William Rhodes, who lived at Woodlawn. That's the main players. I will mention the Moran family. The first Moran in Madison County was John Cleveland Moran, and his son Nathan Montgomery Moran had the first Hugh Anderson Moran. And our Hugh tonight is the 4th. And after the first Hugh passed away, his mother packed up the family and left for California in 1886 or 1887, which 1886. And just as an interesting story, several years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, Hugh knew where John Cleveland was buried. And he went to the cemetery, and him and several of his friends actually found the stone underneath the ground. And when he uncovered it, you could perfectly read everything that was on the stone. And I think that's an interesting story. And I think Hugh, he really, he felt good. And that's all I'm going to say. We welcome Hugh. This is the 4th time, Hugh? 3rd.
Oh, including Zoom, it's the 6th or 7th.
Okay. But we hope that he's back next year. And we've talked about another one of his ancestors. And we would look forward to Hugh coming back this year. But this year, Hugh Woodlawn Part 2.
I've got a different mic, so hopefully everybody can hear me. And Dean already gave my talk, but I'll show you some pictures. This year I decided to do something a little bit different because we have some living history here. Dorothy Parrish Park was born in 1930, and she was born at Woodlawn. Her family moved in 1924. Her father was a farm manager. Her 2 oldest brothers had been born previous to their moving to Woodlawn, but Her sister was born there in 1925, and Dorothy was born there in 1930. So I'm dedicating it tonight to Dorothy and also to my late twin brother who passed away 4 years ago. This is a picture of the 70th wedding anniversary for Dorothy and Neil. Neil had a little accident this afternoon, so he's not here. He turned 96 in July, and his son is here, and Dorothy's here. She's 93, and in December they'll be celebrating their 75th wedding anniversary. My favorite dedication is from the history of masonry in Madison County. And it's a book by Robert Rhodes Burnham, also a cousin, and he was a past Grand Master. And it's a brief dedication, but I think it's the nicest one for history. Dedicated to the memory of those who have gone before, hoping their spirit of patriotism and service may animate not only those now living, but also those who may come hereafter. It's my favorite. This is the oldest picture I have. It's of Sir Francis Rhodes, and this is at Marlborough Hall in England. Jackie, can you turn off the headline? It's blocking the text. Anyway, this is Sir Francis Rhodes, and it's in 1583. And he built Marlborough Hall, which still stands in northern England. Let's see if okay. Well, I forgot. Anyway, this is oldest picture. No. Sorry. Hey, Tristan, need your help for a second.
Okay. It's like he has logged out. It looks like he's logged out of Zoom. It looks like he's logged out of Zoom, though. He's not showing up in the meeting.
Modern technology. I'll just describe this picture. This is from give me two. Up at the top left hand corner. I don't know what that is. Okay. This is Marlborough Hall, and my father was born in 1912 in Shanghai, China, but they took a trip to England in 1929. So my father is the second from the left. He was 17 years old at the time, and they went to visit the hall. My grandfather took the picture, and then on the far right is my grandmother in the Roaring Twenties outfit, and then my three aunts who were younger sisters of my father. And so, and then the other people in the picture dressed in black, those are Rhodes' cousins at Marlborough Hall. Here's a couple of pictures of Marlborough Hall. It's partially in Sherwood Forest. Inside the Great Hall, they had Robin Hood's bow and a king's cloak, and they had a cache hiding room. So if somebody was trying to catch you or kill you, they had a secret hidden room in the Great Hall. And the Marlborough Hall was in the family until 1930, and it's the only thing that's on my bucket list is to go there. After 1930, it was given to a private boys' school, and they use it for the elementary school kids, and the rest of the schools down the road. This is just one page from the Breck Bible, And the Brick Bible was given to Robert Levi Brick in 1846. It was a gift of the father of Woodrow Wilson, President Woodrow Wilson, Joseph Wilson, and he had gone to a seminary in Princeton. They were together at Princeton as classmates in theology. And then Woodrow Wilson's father was also a groomsman at the Brick 1847 wedding. Part of the reason I included this is all the weddings, all the births, the baptisms, the deaths, they all took place at Woodlawn. And they got married in 1847, and everything's logged into this. And William Rhodes, Woodlawn was built for William Rhodes in 1822. The land was given by his father, Robert Rhodes, and the house was constructed as a gift from green clay, as well as his famous French wallpaper that was in the house. At the same time that Robert Rhodes, he gave the land for Billy Rhodes to build Woodlawn. Prior to that, he agreed to a daughter named Mary to marry James Estill in 1800. And this is from, this is the actual handwriting, but I reprinted everything so people could read it. This is to certify to the clerk of Madison County that I have no objection to his giving a license, see how they spell license, to Mr. James Estill, which is also misspelled, for the intermarriage with my daughter Mary, given under my hand and sealed this 9th day of July, 1800. And it was signed by Robert Rhodes, and it was like a print that was there too. And then witnesses Tyree Rhodes and William Rainey. And one of the reasons I included this is Castlewood was like a sister house for to Woodlawn, but it was a daughter of Robert Rhodes who married James Estill, and then it was Castlewood. This is the wife of Robert Rhodes, and I actually have this painting now hanging in my office. It was painted in 1818. This is Eliza Delaney Rhodes, and she was known as a beauty in her youth with auburn hair and beautiful eyes. At this point, she had just lost her husband the same year, Robert Rhodes, and like most women in those days, she had 8 or 10 kids, and it was a hard life. This painting is by Patrick Henry Davenport, who lived from 1803 to 1890, famous painter, and he also studied under Matthew Harris Jewett and Oliver Frazier. Judge Robert Rhodes, don't have a picture of him. He died in 1818, the year before his son and daughter-in-law got married. This is in the Richmond Cemetery. Robert Rhodes lived from 1759 to 1818. He emigrated from Virginia to Kentucky in 1783. He was a justice and later a circuit court judge, a Revolutionary War captain for the East Coast defenses. And as he said, he preferred farming to being a judge. This is the 3 gravestones together after they were cleaned. It's his son John, who died early, Eliza Delaney Rhodes in the center, and Judge Robert Rhodes on the right. And this is, again, in the Richmond Cemetery. This is a picture that I took in Danville. It could have been this log cabin, might have been another log cabin. Robert Rhodes was the Madison County delegate to the first Kentucky State Constitutional Convention in 1787 in Danville. The other 4th great-grandfather who gave the money to have Woodlawn constructed was General Green Clay. He lived from 1757 to 1828. And this is another picture of Green Clay. This is by Chester Hardy, famous painting and famous painter. This is the wife of Green Clay, Sally Ann Lewis. She lived from 1776 to 1867. And her parents were Thomas and Elizabeth Payne Lewis of Fayette County. She was 19 years younger than Green Clay, and she lived 39 years longer. And I found out a couple of years ago that shortly after Green Clay passed away, she remarried, which kind of took me by surprise. I don't know why, but it just took me by surprise. And then this is also a Chester Hardy painting of Sally Lewis Clay. This is Billy Rhodes, or also known as Colonel William Rhodes. And my grandfather also referred to him in the letter as General Rhodes. He lived from 1794 to 1877.
We're good. Thank
He's
you.
the son of Judge Robert Rhodes. And Woodlawn was constructed in 1822, and he lived there from 1822 until he passed in 1877. The land was a gift of his father-in-law, and that land extended all the way from 25 and the bypass all the way over to Lancaster Avenue, up Lancaster Avenue. And the two-story log cabin of Robert Rhodes and Eliza Delaney Rhodes is right in the center of the EKU campus. Also, Irvington on Lancaster Road was a gift of Robert Rhodes to his daughter, and when she married Anthony Wayne Rollins. So that goes back to the Rhodes family land as well. And there's a famous French stag wallpaper that was in Woodlawn that I'll discuss more. Billy Rhodes and Pauline Green Clay Rhodes, they had 10 children, and Pauline outlived 9 of her 10 children. And none of us want to outlive our children at all, but that must have been, quite hard on her. Here's a painting by Matthew Harris Jewett of Billy Rhodes, and from that, part of the previous screen was created. And a cousin of mine in California has this painting in her home, and I had the fortune to visit it and take some pictures. This is when he was 26 years old in 1820. Here's an older picture that I just found in May when I was visiting a cousin in West Virginia. This, I would say, Billy Rhodes. You can see, the eyes are the same. And this is probably when he was in his 70s, and he died in 1877. But I just saw this picture for the first time in May. This is his wife, Pauline Green Clay Rhodes. My older sister's name is also Pauline, and there's at least 8 Paulines in our family. She lived from 1802 to 1886, and my grandfather, Hugh II, he was born in 1881, but he remembers visiting her at Woodlawn, and she was bedridden at the time. And my grandfather had this incredible memory, which I hope that I will have. So he started to do his life story on audio tapes, and it took him 20 hours of tape to get up to age 4. So anyway, he remembers Pauline Green Clay Rhodes, and that's a beautiful picture. And their daughters were known as beauties as well. So this is just a great brief story. John Eskell, who's a grandson of Judge Robert Rhodes, he recounted later on in life in 1886 to his daughter Sally Ferris. He said, Pa, Wallace Eskell, said that Grandpa, Judge Robert Rhodes, sent word to him and Uncle James that he wanted the Eskells to stop lawing Green Clay. He wanted his son William to marry Green Clay's daughter Pauline. So lawing means suing, obviously, and there were lots of lawsuits because people were fighting over boundary lines for land, suing each other. And just as an aside, I added at the bottom that Kentucky has 120 counties. It's 4th most in the U.S., although it's the 37th largest state. Courthouses were supposed to be within a day's horseback ride to record land deeds in the 1700s and 1800s as attorneys flourished over land border lawsuits. And so there were, I've read about lots of lawsuits between the Rhodes and the Clays. This is my favorite story, and it's the courtship. This is in the history of masonry in Madison County, and it's briefly about the courtship of William Billy Rhodes and Pauline Green Clay Rhodes. It says here, the story of Colonel Rhodes' courtship is worthy of being preserved. He had many rivals, and it would seem could not get a favorable opportunity to press his suit. One evening, while his lady love was playing on her piano for a large company, he whispered in her ear, Pauline, I love you. If you intend to marry me, come haste to the wedding. If you do not, play the Rhodes March. Instantly, the beautiful hands began to make the piano ring with the melody of that beautiful old air, and his joy was triumphant. So I just love that story. And last time I was at Whitehall, I asked if I could look across at the music book that was on the piano, and the docent let me go in there, and it was embossed with Pauline clay. So it wouldn't have been that music book, I don't think, but it was her music book, the only music book that was on the piano at the time. And Colonel William Billy Rhodes was instrumental in the design in 1849 to 1850 of the Madison County Courthouse. So here's an old picture of the courthouse. He was also instrumental in the design and layout of Richmond Cemetery. And he was the founder in 1848, first president, and the architectural designer. The first person buried in Richmond Cemetery, Dean mentioned my third great grandmother, Jane Briggs Todd Breck. She was the first person buried in the cemetery, June 1st, 1856. And that this portrait is also still in my family and with a cousin in Virginia. And I have a portrait of Hugh the First in the exact same frame. This is the gravestone for William Rhodes and Pauline Greenclay Rhodes in the Richmond Cemetery. And the bottom of it reads, Pauline Greenclay Rhodes, wife of William Rhodes, 1802 to 1886. And the cemetery foundation actually put up this gravestone in appreciation of Colonel William Rhodes. And what this says is erected by the Richmond Cemetery Company in commemoration of invaluable and disinterested service rendered from the day of its incorporation. Somebody asked me what disinterested means, and in my mind, it just means he was totally philanthropic. He had nothing to gain. He was, trying to do something nice for the community. This is just another page from the Breck Bible, which I have, and it indicates that Robert Levi Breck married Martha Green Rhodes July 20th, 1847 at Woodlawn. They were both age 20. This is Martha Green Rhodes Breck. I also have this painting hanging in my office now, right next to Eliza Delaney. And she was age 20 in 1847, and she was a real beauty. She actually died in 1865 at childbirth of her daughter, Belle Breck. She was only 38 at the time. This is Robert Levi Breck in his youth. He was the fourth of 8 children of Daniel Breck Jr. and Jane Coggins Breck. And they initially lived at 212 Lancaster Avenue, and then they lived at 312 Lancaster Avenue, and both houses still stand. This is Woodlawn. Obviously, before it was taken down, and it was at Highway 25 and Big Hill, Barnesville Road. And as I said before, the land was extensive. It was built in 1822, 201 years ago. It's a federal style with 4 leaded Palladian windows and side lights, Flemish bond brickwork, and 6-story columns. And then I'll describe the Palladian windows a little later on. This is just a timeline. 1818 was the land gift of Judge Robert Rhodes to Billy and Pauline Greenclay, and Robert Rhodes died that same year. And it was land that he had inherited from his parents, John and Sally Harris Rhodes. Robert Rhodes settled on the land in 1783. It was a preemption claim of federal land by residing on the property. 1819 was the wedding of Billy and Pauline. 1822, Woodlawn was constructed. And 1882 to 1886, Colonel William Billy Rhodes and Pauline Greenclay Rhodes lived there. In 1869, they celebrated their 50th golden wedding anniversary, which is pretty amazing for anyone to achieve. 1887 to 1896, Colonel Samuel and Patty Harris Stone, a sister of Cassius and Clay of Auvergne, Bourbon County, lived there. 1896 to 1905, Colonel James W. Caperton, and then the Caperton family moved to Blair Hills. 1906 to 1995 and on, it was owned by the Caperton descendants, and then the late Owsley Brown Jr. of Brown Foreman, and now his widow Christy Brown, all meticulously disassembled, labeled, numbered, and stored Woodlawn in a barn in Louisville. And then I added at the bottom in 1924, 1946, Dorothy May Parish Park and her family lived there. She was born in 1930, so 6 years after they moved in. This is Castlewood, which is a sister, in my mind, a sister construction to Woodlawn, and very close by. It was built in 1825, and it was federal style home. And you can see, because the federal style, you look at the front door, and there's 2 windows on either side. You look upstairs, there's a window right over the front door, 2 windows on the other side. Everything's equal and offsetting. There's an annex on the right, and there's an annex on the left. And this is actually quite a large structure, but it didn't have the same front porch that Woodlawn has. You know, it's all just, you know, totally flat. Gideon Schrock, who lived from 1802 to 1880. He was the architect. He was also the architect for Woodlawn. And you'll see extreme similarities between the homes and also the woodwork inside. This is Castlewood. And this is one of the note cards that you'll get in the box. Take a box, it's Castlewood. And it was interesting because the house is going to be taken down when they put in the armory on 25, and there were family representatives who went to Washington, D.C. and wanted to preserve the house, but unfortunately they were there the day before Pearl Harbor. And then Pearl Harbor occurred on Sunday, December 7th, and nobody was available to discuss Castlewood, so it was taken down. But I have some slides of some things from Castlewood. This is Gideon Schrock, who is the architect for Castlewood and Woodlawn. Here's a later picture of Gideon Schrock. This is one of the salons at Woodlawn. And you can see on the far left is a portrait of green clay. That's the Chester Harding painting. And then above the fireplace, you've got Billy Rhodes on the left, Pauline green clay Rhodes on the right, and then Sally Clay on the far right. And this is the French stag wallpaper that's very famous. So the name Woodlawn, it had to do with the fact that there were so many big trees on the property, and they weren't fruit trees, they were hickory, ash, elm, and oak trees, and it shaded the manor house, and it had sloping lawns. So the name Woodlawn. Woodlawn was 70 feet wide, had a center hall from front to back of the house, 2 salons on either side, and 2 wings on the far left and the far right, 1 room each. On the second floor, there's also a center hall. There's 1 large room on either side and 2 doors to get into the rooms. In the late 1800s, a rear staircase was added in the center hall. And also the upstairs windows and dormers were added at that time. In the rear left salon, originally it was a salon, later on it was a kitchen, because obviously in 1822 the kitchen was in an outbuilding and all the plumbing was in an outbuilding. And you have to keep in mind, you know, there was no electricity at that time, so everything you see is built by hand. During the Civil War, in the Battle of Richmond in 1862, Bragg's Army Federal Forces encamped on Woodlawn for a full year. And at one point, the North had it as headquarters, at another time the South had it as headquarters. And that's one of the few battles that the South won. And there's Otter Creek runs into the property, and there was this endless stream of water, so they never ran out of water for watering the horses, and they were encamped there for a year. Here's another picture of the front. You'll notice, just like Marlborough Hall, it has Doric columns in the front. It's got 6 Doric columns, and it's got a stone portico. So I kind of wonder if they got the idea for the Doric columns from Marlborough in England. Maybe not, but I like the idea. And inside you'll see there's an archway in the center hall, and the archway has double Doric columns out of wood on both sides that look just like these columns. This is a late picture of the front door. It's double doors with side lights and the stone portico. And in the left front column is the name William Rhodes, and in the right front it said 1822. Later on, when they added the windows upstairs, you can see the intricate design in the wood that they used to, cover the walls of the house. And a close-up of the oval window and the other windows that were added in the late 1800s. In the late 1800s, that's the Victorian period from 1870 to 1901, due to the long reign of Queen Victoria. I described the Palladian windows before. Now the Palladian window has this rectangular center window with a semicircular glass window above it, and then narrow glass side plates. So that's a Palladian window. And this is the, on the left front annex, they had the nursery, so that's where all the kids were born. And like I said, all the births, baptisms, marriages, and passings took place at Woodlawn. This is from the inside looking out, Palladian window. So you can see the leaded glass and the French, stag wallpaper, which I'll show you later on. Now, John Fox, not John Fox who's here tonight, but another John Fox wrote a novel in 1900, and he based the interior and the exterior of his novel called Crittenden on Woodlawn. This Woodlawn was also known for gala celebrations and balls such as the daughter Belrode's marriage to McDowell. This is the French stag wallpaper that was inside the front salon on the, as you're looking at the house on the right side. It says Les Chasses de Compiègne. Compiègne is an area north of Paris in France, and chasse means hunts. So it was stag hunts in Compiègne, and it was created in 1814, and then later installed at Woodlawn. It's this Parisian wallpaper firm, Jacques and Bernard. They were the people who sold the wallpaper, and then the dealer in Frankfurt. Maybe somebody will recognize this. It was ordered. The order was attributed to Downing and Grant, an art dealer in Frankfurt. It was ordered by Green Clay. Here's the wallpaper on the wall, and you see that border at the bottom. It's actually a three-dimensional optical illusion border on the bottom. It's called trompe-l'oeil, means three-dimensional illusion, and it's a balustrade border. It's below a chair rail, and it goes all the way around the room. And they had 18-foot ceilings up there, and they had clouds painted up to the ceiling. That wallpaper was sold in 1929 for $6,000 by a New York dealer. Think about it, 1929, the Depression, $6,000 was a fortune. And I have the actual clipping, which is from the New York Times that my grandparents saved. Inside Woodlawn, you can see the beautiful woodwork and this theme of the arch and the wood in the center of the arch, and then the cupboards and the mantle. You'll see it at both Castlewood and at Woodlawn. And just the beautiful, Matthew Lowry was the cabinet maker. Here's a close-up of the cupboard and the carved fan on the top. Here's what one of the cupboards open, so you can see the inside. Get another picture of where you have the interior doors going from one salon to another salon, and the top and how everything's carved and has the same theme. Now this is Castlewood. You can see that the mantle and the cupboards and the carving, the design is very, very similar. And Matthew P. Lowry, who settled in Mercer County around 1800, married 1823. The woodwork is attributed to him. Here's a Castlewood fireplace and mantle. And here's Castlewood, another Castlewood fireplace and mantle. Just look at the designs in the center, the carving on both sides. And then you look at Woodlawn, one of the fireplaces, very similar in the designs. And then this is a close-up of another fireplace at Woodlawn. You can see the beautiful carving. This is out of a book, but you can see the beautiful carving for Woodlawn to the left of the fireplace. And you can see the Corinthian columns, the Doric columns going down on the left side. And on the right, that's the center arch in the center of the hallway at Woodlawn, and you can see the Doric columns and the base, which is, they're both very similar to the front porch. Okay, also, Woodlawn, part of the business there was a hemp and rope factory, 3-story factory that was down near the entrance, so close to the intersection of the bypass and 25 down in that corner. And it was built in 1825 and it was destroyed by fire in 1905. And there was the person who ran the rope and hemp factory was not an honest person. And this lady told William Rhodes later on, an older woman to Colonel Rhodes, didn't you know that all Yorkshiremen are thieves? He stole Colonel Rhodes blind and left him financially embarrassed for life. So in 1924, the Parrish family moved in, and this is a picture from around 1926, so it was before Dorothy was born. And Vernon Lear, he went by Peanut, is on the left, and then Betty, who was born in 1925, is in the center, and Conrad Coy Parrish is on the right. And again, Betty was born there, and Dorothy was also born there. This is a picture from around 1928, and this is again before Dorothy was born. She's actually quite young. And this is a family on the front lawn, and it's the 3 older children. And you can see the sloping lawn and then woodlawn in the background. You can see all the trees. This is from 1930, and this is actually on the porch of Castlewood. And Dorothy's mother's on the right, and she's quite pregnant, getting ready to give birth to Dorothy. And
Her sister. Her
Pardon?
sister. That was her sister that lived there.
yes, ma'am. And so Dorothy's mother's sister and her husband lived at Castlewood, and they were the managers there, just like Dorothy's parents were the managers of Woodlawn. So this is on the front porch, and these are 2 sisters. So it'd be Dorothy's mother and Dorothy's aunt. This is a picture of 1933, 1934. This is the back porch of Woodlawn, and left to right are Susie, Dorothy, Betty, and Conrad reading the newspaper in the back right. And I see the picture of Conrad reading the newspaper, and I think of Bud on Father Knows Best in the background. This is a picture of 1933, 1934, and it's Betty in the front left, and Dorothy in the back right, and her cousins again on the Woodlawn property. This is 1934, and Dorothy's parents, William Clark, went by Bill, and Lily Mae Combs Parrish. And this is outside the one on the right, outside the back door, and then the one on the left is in front of their car. When you look at Woodlawn, the annex on the left was used as a nursery. When Dorothy's parents lived there, her parents lived in that annex. It used to be the nursery. And this is a porch right outside that nursery on the left side. And it has steps down, to the ground, and then off to the left, there's steps down to the cellar, which was outside the kitchen. This is a 1941 picture of the back porch of Woodlawn. And if you look at the building on the right, that would have initially, I believe, been slave quarters, and then it became a nice kitchen. And the relatives of Dorothy, who lived in the annex on the right side of Woodlawn, they used this as their outdoor kitchen because they didn't have a kitchen inside. This is 1943, 44. This is outside the back porch, and you see the outdoor kitchen in the background. And Betty's in the front and Dorothy's in the back. And Betty had a couple of horses over the years. Dorothy and the horses didn't get along very well. So, but here she is on the horse. This is in 1944, and that's Dorothy on the far left. So this is, to the left of the front porch, and outside where the annex was on the left. So it's Dorothy, her father, and Betty, and her mother Lily, and Skipper, and And Dorothy took Skipper with her when she got married. Here's another picture of her parents. Her parents left Woodlawn and moved into town in 1946, and then her father died in 1947, and her mother died in 10 months later in 1948. So, you know, Dorothy was just a teenager when she lost both of her parents. Here's a picture in 1944. Got Dorothy on the left, family car behind them, the mother Lily and Betty on the right. Here's another picture from 1944. Again, it's Dorothy on the left, her mother, and her sister Betty. This is in the back, and that tree that's in the foreground, Dorothy refers to it as the mud pie tree, because that's where she would make mud pies. And it's in the turning circle that was at the back of Woodlawn. This is the smokehouse, picture taken later on in 1998, but this building was used as a smokehouse. And then here's a garage for hay storage from 1998. Here's the back doors, and the back doors, they had a brick porch originally, and the back doors don't have the side lights that the front doors have. Here's the door that leads into the kitchen. Originally, it wasn't a kitchen because they had an outdoor kitchen, but this time it was a kitchen. And in the 1880s, they added the staircase in the rear of the center hall. And, you know, keep in mind, don't have electricity, and you've got these beautiful carved, you know, the spindles and the staircase, and you know everything related to the staircase. And it has a bench seat in front. Here's upstairs at the top of the banister for the top of the stairs that were added, and you can see that it has amber glass in the windows. It's the back of the house. And then this is the original staircase, you know, before they built the one in the center hall, and this was in the left rear salon and went downstairs to what was later on the kitchen. It's another picture of it from 1995. And then you can see the amber color of the glass, and this is around the front doors, 1997. And this is the center arch in the hallway of Woodlawn. You can see the same design, it goes through all the rooms. And then you see the front door and the beautiful, you know, leaded glass. It's, you know, amber colored above and to the right and left of the doors. This is a late picture of 1995 of Woodlawn. This is also in Dorothy's collection. And you can see the sloping lawns. And I believe that the rope and the hemp factory would have been in the foreground off to the left. In 1997, they had a reunion of the Parrish and Combs families, and this is on the staircase inside Woodlawn, and Dorothy's there front and center smiling, and Neil's right behind her with the glasses. This is another picture that was, you know, taken before Woodlawn was dismantled in 2004, and you can see these are interior doors going from one salon to another salon. So this is going from the front salon to the rear salon, because you can see the Palladian window in the background. This is just a close-up of the front door, so you can see the design of the leaded glass windows. And a close-up showing, this is at the rear of the house, because that's where the staircase is. And you can see how the staircase fit in and the design. Another picture of the rear of the house. And then this is the front door of the house from the interior. And then this is looking from the front of the house to the back of the house inside. This is the center hallway. And you can see the Doric columns in the center and the archway. And the same design is carried up throughout the house. Here's a picture looking from the back of the house towards the front of the house. So that's where you see the side lights to both sides of the front door. And again, this is a close-up of the design of the archway. And then this is where it comes down on one side, and you see the Doric columns. And this is the same design that you see on the front porch portico. And this is a hallway in the rear of the house where they were taking some measurements and also pictures before they dismantled the house. Again, this is before they dismantled the house, so you can see the steps in the railing. And there's the bench seat on the left at the base of the staircase. And here's one of the posts, and keep in mind, these are all carved by hand. And then these are, posts at the top of the stairs. And then the spindles. Another picture showing the landing at the top where the windows are. Another picture of from the top of the stairs down to the landing. And this was a lady who was taking measurements when they were dismantling the house. So she's in the picture. I couldn't crop her out, so she's in the picture. And then here's the staircase landing and window. And Dorothy still has a piece of that amber glass. She's got a piece of the wallpaper too. And here's from upstairs, the central hallway, and this is looking from the front of the house to the rear of the house. You can see the doors on either side. And this is from upstairs from the rear of the house, looking to the front of the house. And then here you can see the oval window that's on the outside and the windows that face the front of the house. Now this picture, it was interesting to me because when you look in the doorway on the right, then I was able to see where the original staircase was that went down to the left rear salon that later on became a kitchen. But I couldn't figure out the perspective until I saw this picture. This is one of the two basements. And I always find basements and attics interesting. Whenever I tour a house, I always want to see the basement and the attic. And they used one of the basements for a pantry for canned goods. And Dorothy will tell you she was only allowed to go into one basement and not the other. And her mother told her to never go in the other basement. And she will tell you she did whatever her mother told her to do. Here's an early picture before they made some changes to Woodlawn. You'll notice that the railing above the front porch. And then in this picture, a later picture, there's no longer a railing above the front porch. This is shortly before it was taken down. And again, here's a late close-up, and there's no railing above the front porch. What's interesting about Woodlawn is there's an annex on the left, which was the nursery, and later on the bedroom for Dorothy's parents. But on the right was the office for Colonel William Rhodes. And there was an entrance on the outside. You can see that white door, but that was the only entrance. There was not an entrance from the annex into the house. And I was told later on it might have been for security purposes, because sometimes people had it in for somebody. And if somebody wanted to do something to Colonel William Rhodes, and he was in his office, they could only go through that door, but they couldn't get to the rest of the house. And that wasn't the case on the other side where the nursery was. Here's a late picture. The reason I included this is you can see all the trees, see all the greenery there on the right. It's all the trees, and you see the road coming in from 25 to where the house was. And here's a close-up. This is one of the pictures that Dean Whitaker gave me. And so I have some color photos just before the house was dismantled. Here you see the side, you see this, the single door that goes into Colonel William Billy Rhodes' office. Here's the back of the house, right before it was taken down. And the left rear before it was taken down. And it wasn't torn down. Every piece was numbered, labeled, totally organized, photographed, and it was put into this barn in Louisville because Alice Lee Brown wanted to reconstruct the house in a different location. Then he passed away, and I did try to contact his wife to ask about the current whereabouts and status. Would have loved to have just seen it, but I wasn't able to get in touch with her. Here's a picture right before Woodlawn was dismantled. And here's a picture right afterwards, an aerial photo. So you can see the road coming in, and you can see Otter Creek coming down. So you had a little bridge that crossed over Otter Creek, and there's the bypass on the right. Here's a picture of Otter Creek that I took last year. And this is above the property, and this is where it's open and then that flows into the property. One of the items that was at Woodlawn was a very famous painting of the Marquis de Lafayette. And, you know, he lived from 1757 to 1834, and it was a full-size portrait. It was done by Matthew Harris Jewett in 1825, when the Marquis de Lafayette was back in the United States for the 50-year anniversary of the start of the Revolutionary War. And this painting is either at Yale or Johns Hopkins. Hope it's being appreciated. And the sale of Matthew Harris Jewett 1825 painting of the Marquis de Lafayette was $6,000. It was sold in New York City by Belle McDowell, one of the relatives. And think about it, $3,000 in 1900, that's a lot of money. Here's another full-size, full-length picture of the Marquis de Lafayette by Matthew Harris Jewett, and it's in the old Capitol building in Frankfurt, and it's really spectacular. If you haven't been to the old Capitol building, I really enjoyed it. So you wonder, well, where are these things now? Well, we have a cousin here in Richmond, and she has this millstone, and it's from Woodlawn. It's 33 inches in diameter, and it's 9.5 inches thick. And as somebody told me when they created Millstone Park on Main Street, it's not a hobby for the faint of heart to collect millstones because they're extremely heavy. Here's a Castlewood millstone. Last year I identified it as Woodlawn incorrectly, but this is from Castlewood, and it's 46 inches in diameter and 16 inches in height. Also very, very heavy. This is an old picture of the former front gates of Woodlawn. It was a picture from 1977, and on the left there was a plaque that said Woodlawn. There's a close-up of the plaque. And here's the actual plaque. It's still in existence. It's on the front porch of one of my cousins here in Richmond. And this, if you look at the buffet in the back, that's a buffet from Woodlawn. And when I was growing up in California, where I still live, my great aunt, great uncle had a buffet in their dining room in La Cañada, California. So that's the buffet from Woodlawn. And that's the picture of my great grandmother, Jane Todd Breck Moran. We called her Jenny B. She was the wife of Hugh I. That's a portrait of her above the Woodlawn buffet, which is now in New Mexico with a cousin. Here's a close-up, and you can see how beautiful it is. And again, it's all hand carved. This is a desk that's attributed to Woodlawn, and there's also a top that goes on it with a mirror, and it had different handles originally, but this is here in Richmond as well. This is a Woodlawn hallway pier table. I've heard it referred to as a petticoat table, but I was reading a book on Waveland, and it said that people incorrectly call it a petticoat table. It's a pier table, and there's twin tables that were Woodlawn. And what you do is you put this table in the hall and try to have light on both sides. And then ladies would step away and they'd look in the mirror at the bottom to see if their petticoat was showing. And this is from the Empire period, approximately 1820. So as far as the French stag wallpaper, that was sold several times. And is currently, as far as I know, it's in Pleasant Retreat, which is the 1804 Governor William Owsley Mansion in Lancaster. And this is the interior. This is the dining room where the French stag wallpaper is now in the dining room. Went there about 3 years ago, late at night. Went in there, and it was dark, and the door was unlocked, and people in the back have a barbecue business now. And they'd had like a kid's birthday party in the dining room. And so I went in and took all these pictures, and Sandy said, "You can't do that. You can't go in there." And I said, "I'll probably never be back, right?" And the door's open. So anyway, the foundation, they were gonna tear down Pleasant Retreat, the Governor Owsley home, but at the last minute, the foundation was established and saved the home. And I think they want to sell this wallpaper to raise money for the foundation. Here's a close-up that I took in the dead of night. Here's another close-up of the optical illusion section below the chair rail. And here's a picture in 2002. It's Dorothy on the left and her late brother Conrad, and when they were there as well. They were there probably legally at the invitation of somebody. Here's a pretty recent picture. Right now they're building a Menards where Woodlawn used to be. And I went by there yesterday. It's absolutely huge. And it's amazing. And Sandy thinks that this must be all very painful to me. And I'm a purist, so I guess all of this is painful to me. Anyway, here's a picture from August that Dean Whitaker took for me when they were just starting to build Menards, and they had stopped construction for a few years because somebody had died on the construction project. And then this is also from August, but it's like a Lowe's, but it's absolutely huge. So that's from across the bypass. And these are just some people I'd like to thank, that it's nice for me to have a venue to share family history, and Madison County Historical Society has been wonderful. Karen Graves is the president, who's also a relative on the Farthing side. And Sharon and Matt Cox, they help me with pictures and enhancing and cropping pictures. And I also have the Eliza Delaney Rhodes portrait, courtesy of Matt and Sharon. And then cousin Kathy Flood gave me the pictures of the millstones, and I have a lot of information from the EKU archives. And then Vicki and Dean Whitaker, they've been friends ever since I looked up Dean's phone number in the phone book in 2015. And I remember at the time I talked to him for about an hour because none of my conversations are short with people in Kentucky. And then Dean said, "Well, you definitely have the bug." And then Jackie Kucher and the EKU archive staff have been very helpful. And Sharon Mitchell, she's not here tonight. Don't see, she didn't come late. Sharon Mitchell and I are actually cousins. We're related through Cassius Clay, and we look like Mutt and Jeff next to each other, but we're related. So she calls me cousin Hugh, and I call her cousin Sharon, and it's wonderful. And then Dorothy. I talked to Dorothy a week before I came last year. She gave me all this information that I really couldn't incorporate. And then after I gave my talk, she gave me about 50 pictures that she allowed me to copy. And she still tonight gave me a picture as she walked in. And so she's been wonderful. And if you don't know Dorothy and Neil, Dorothy's 93, Neil's 96. And as much as we all miss our parents and grandparents, it just reminds you of your wonderful parents and grandparents when you spend any time with Dorothy and Neil. And then Eric Savilka, he's the one who did the documentation of Woodlawn with all the pictures, and he was going to write a book. And instead, a year ago, again, shortly before I came here, he handed all the pictures in a box to Jackie at the EKU archives, and then I started ordering pictures. So he did the Woodlawn survey, and as always, I always like to thank Sandy because she had all this patience for my passion for family history. But fortunately for me, everyone here treats Sandy like a queen, so my life is really easy. And that's it. Thank you very much.